Pre-pandemic, had you had the opportunity to witness a game at the Bank of California Stadium yet?
No, but I do want to. I've seen
You're coming with me
I've
then.
walked by the stadium, and it's a beautiful stadium, dude.
You're coming with me, and then we'll ask you this question again after you've seen a game there, and then we'll see post-pandemic.
But I have to sit down, man. I'm not gonna go to that area where people are just standing. Fuck that.
Thank you for downloading and listening to West Box Score. I'm Alex Gonzalez, joined once again, Sonny Namano, Donald Paz. What's up, gentlemen?
What's going on, man?
Buenos dias, senor.
Before we get started here, I got to take a moment to ask you guys to check out Blue Wire Hustle at Blue Wire Pods on Twitter. They are a sports podcasting network bringing together a new generation of content creators. So be sure to check them out on Twitter. Be sure to check out Sonny's podcast, The Fox Crate Podcast, at The Fox Crate, and download that podcast whenever you can. New episodes. Keep refreshing that feed, man. Their new episodes are coming up soon.
That's right.
Just keep hitting refresh, and then you're going to get hit with a Christmas surprise.
Yep.
There's a new episode of The Fox Crate up there. You never know. It's a special surprise whenever you see it. Our special guest from last time was on here talking basketball. Now he was generous enough to stick around another week, a whole new episode with our acclaimed international music superstar, Pablo Cabrera. Welcome back to the podcast, Pablo.
Hey, thanks, guys. It's been a while.
It's been an entire week here since we talked to you last time about your Clipper fandom, your upbringings in Peru. And so because you grew up in Peru, Trujillo, Peru, is that right, Pablo?
That's right.
So what would you say your first love of, your first sport that you grew up watching? What was it?
Soccer was big because that's pretty much all you get, right? You don't have baseball, American football. There's none of that. Some people play basketball, but it's not a huge sport. So soccer for sure. That was the first sport that I used to watch. I used to watch it with my brother. My brother's a huge fan. I used to watch it with my dad just a little bit. And I remember playing soccer with my brother. He was way better than. He was good. I wouldn't say he was better than me because that implies that I'm good, but I'm not. But I remember playing with him when I was a kid, and then I kind of stopped watching it for a little bit, and now I'm back.
Your brother is good at playing soccer. We've played a few pickup games with your brother, and he is by far one of the best players on the pitch, along with our own Sonny Namano here from the Fox Crate Podcast, man. I've got to say, co-MVPs right there. We always got to make sure we separate them whenever we play because they're too good on each to have on one side.
Yeah, next time we should try him and I on the same team. And
I think you and him against the 8 of us would probably be a better, would give us a shot of actually winning the game there. But so soccer, one of your early loves there, and I got to say, soccer, one of my new loves here since following lately. I got to credit yourself there, Pablo, as to why I root for Barcelona.
Oh, great. You're the reason that we have to thank for this guy's shenanigans.
Don't say that to people because now it's my fault.
It is your fault because I remember not always seeing soccer on as a child, but never really getting into it, seeing the 94 World Cup because that's how old I am, and just kind of being into that, but never really being into out of the World Cup time. Every 4 years, super into soccer like a lot of people in the United States, and then kind of falling off. But since working with you and working with Donald, working with Sonny, seeing more that there's so much that soccer has to offer with leagues in Europe, the MLS here kind of too, and Liga MX. And so I just really got into watching Barca because it was just it's such a good style of football to watch. So when did you get into watching Barca?
I remember this is another thing when I was still back in Peru. For some reason, one of the channels there would carry the Spanish league. I don't know why, but they would have all those matches back in the day. My brother used to watch them all the time. He was a huge fan, still is too. But I remember those going on. And then when I was here, once I moved, I remember when I lived in Fresno for 3 years. And that's when I started watching basketball a little more. And that's when my brother got me back into watching Barcelona. So this was 2012, 2013 or something. So that's when I started watching it a little more. And this was when they did it right. And you guys remember, several years ago when it was the most beautiful thing you could watch. Yeah, I want to say even people who knew nothing about soccer could watch that and think to themselves, damn, how come nobody else is doing this? It was just a thing of beauty to watch them. You would have to get up sometimes at 4 a.m, 5 a.m. to watch them play, but man, it was totally worth it. Nowadays, I fucking hate when I wake up early to watch them because it's a fucking disappointment.
It ruins your whole day. Like today, as we're recording this on a Saturday at 7 a.m., we woke up at 7 a.m. to watch the Barca game, and they ended in a draw, but they have, as a newer Barca fan, I gotta say that goal by Araujo was a really nice goal there in the box, like a half bicycle kick, which is a fundamental you learn in soccer, bicycle kicks. And if they tie or they just don't put out the best performance, it could ruin the rest of your day now, because it's like, you just think about what could have happened had they played a little bit better. But so what do you think of this current state of Barca?
It's hard to watch. And I think you kind of have to feel bad for Messi. I've been watching him for years now, and I don't think he's ever shown as much frustration as he's showing now. I'm sure he's had it for years sometimes, but I think he's always kept it inside. Nowadays, you watch him and he's just showing it. And I don't think that's a good thing. I think at this point, he's just waiting to get out. And his window of opportunity is closing. And you kind of feel bad because as a fan of his, I was kind of hoping that he was going to win a couple more championships, maybe one more Champions League. That's not going to happen now. So it's very sad to see how a team that was so amazing just 4 or 5 years ago, now they can't even compete. It's kind of sad.
So where would you like Messi to go, since he may not be long for Barca at this point? Do you want him to continue in Europe? Do you want him to come to MLS and the Galaxy where he should go? Where do you want Messi's future to be?
I think it would be amazing if he came to the MLS. But the thing about Messi from now, the way he plays now, it's very hard to make him fit in teams that have some like a completely different scheme going on. So like they're talking about him going to Man City. I mean, I think it would be kind of cool to watch him there, but is he going to make them that much better? I don't know. I don't think so. But if he comes here, man, it's like a Ibrahimovic kind of thing, right? You're just a god among men. It would be amazing. He would make a huge difference, not just for himself, but for the MLS. I think it would be a huge get. Does he want to do it? I don't think so. If I'm not mistaken, at some point he said that he wants to retire back in his home country. So now all those things change, especially when they show you money. So who knows? But man, talk about imagine if he does come to the Galaxy. How huge would that be? And just having him here, man, that would be huge.
Yeah, I'm sure Messi has dreamt of his days in Carson, playing in front of the 20 fans that exist in this.
Just a sold out Dignity Health Sports Park in Carson. All 18,000 screaming fans there.
All the Bud Light seltzer he can handle.
The Victoria Block just going crazy.
Yes, I'm
Messi.
sure that will, for him, feel just like the Blaugrana and the Camp Nou, that he'll just be like, yes. My kingdom.
I love Twitter going crazy like Messi deserves better, which is true, right? Messi is the GOAT of our era right now, along with Ronaldo and Bruno Fernandes, the Portuguese GOAT over
You
there at
said
Manchester.
Bruno Fernandes. This was said Bruno Fernandes.
Bruno Fernandes, yes.
Get
No,
out
you're
of
right.
here.
Yes,
The
yeah.
Portuguese GOAT over there for Manchester United.
Oh my God.
So, but in Barca now, what's going on with the team overall? Obviously, they're going through a lot of rebuilding. I mean, but it's defensively, seeing the game, they didn't look terrible defensively, and just mainly because I'm seeing it as opposed to when I watch MLS and seeing the terrible defense that MLS has to offer. And I know I expect a lot better when I watch La Liga games, but I'm like, their defense doesn't look that terrible. And so where are the problems that lie for Barca as it pertains to the whole club?
I think I would disagree with you. I think defense is the worst part about that team. I don't think they would have problems scoring, because especially if you have Messi, it could happen at any moment, right? But their defense is just, oh man, it's hard to watch, and it's been going on for years now. I know we've mentioned we've talked about PK before, and how he's just not the same guy he was, back with his national team or whatever. And you keep bringing other people that just are not working out. I do think that the defense is the worst part about that team right now.
That defense has been the problem for the last 7 years. And they've won in spite of that defense many times. When they had a more dynamic and potent offense, when they had Neymar, MSN, they were able to mask the problems that were happening in the back. But yeah, Piqué has become a shell of himself more lately. Prior to this, he was inconsistent at best, where he'd have a great month, and then he'd have a couple games that he looked like he does now. Umtiti had all the promise as his partner, and then he couldn't stay healthy. And they just have never done anything. I mean, Jordi Alba has been the most reliable defender, and even he takes too many risks, on his end.
Well, I think that's been the huge issue, that a lot of people have come to the team and show a lot of promise, and then something happens within the first year, and all of a sudden they're just not the player that you hoped they were going to be. Now, that has a lot to do with the coaching, with the strategy that you're putting out there. You know what they say, right? Barcelona, the way Barcelona plays, it's not for everybody. You can be the best. You can be the best, and you come to that team, and all of a sudden you don't know what you're doing anymore.
Right.
I mean, talk about Griezmann, right?
Or Coutinho.
Or Coutinho, right?
Yeah.
I mean, these are very talented players that all of a sudden they're looking like fucking MLS players out there.
Yeah. Galaxy players, to be more precise.
Well, I mean, LAFC also plays in the MLS. So I think
just saying,
it was
for those fans out there who are like, wow, but the MLS is pretty good from what I've seen from LAFC. Pablo's not talking about good MLS. He's talking about bad MLS.
You mean like the MLS champion Columbus Crew? Is that what you're talking about? That's good MLS.
Get out of here.
That would be good MLS.
Of course, you would root for another team that's
No,
not
I would
yours.
reference the champions of the MLS, which are not LAFC.
You would hype another team, yes.
No, I'm respecting the champion of the league.
I was going to
not
say,
LAFC.
I was going to say another thing, similar to the last episode where we kind of were trying to figure out the map of where Laker fans started turning on Clipper fans. Now in trying to solve the puzzle or the riddle of when Barcelona's defense just went to shit, it kind of coincides with when they moved on from Dani Alves.
For sure.
Who was the heart of that defense. Even though he wasn't a center defender or a central defender, he embodied the attitude and the spirit of Barcelona. He was kind of, to me, like an extension of Puyol, who probably predates Alex's fandom.
Yes.
But Puyol was everything.
Yeah, because I was going to say, Puyol was the guy who you knew nobody was going to get through that.
Exactly.
Right? He was the guy that, hey man, if it's him and three other guys, he was going to find a fucking way to stop them.
Yep.
When
Mascherano too.
Yes. So they were, all the teammates from that such amazing era. But yeah, when everyone started to leave, you could kind of feel like, as you said, there were a lot of problems. Just like no team is perfect, but then the good outweighs the bad. Nowadays, I mean, even if you watch today's match, it was just one of those things that, like, where does the offense come from?
Mm-hmm.
And nothing is happening. Then you look at the defense, and it's a free for all at that point. So I do agree with you. And Dani Alves too. He left in, not the best of terms, which
seems to be the pattern for Barcelona.
oh yeah, for sure. I think he was the first who actually spoke out about it too. He never wanted to go anywhere, but the way things are run there is not the best at the moment.
Yeah, it was like a perfect storm of bad decisions and bad leadership and aging players. When we lost, I say we because I'm a diehard Barca fan also, but when Barca lost Xavi and Iniesta following the era of Puyol and those players, it just was too much. It was like you became way too Messi dependent at that point. And that's not a recipe for long-term success. And we're seeing that now. And now I don't think Messi's even enough to pepper over the cracks, that are Barcelona. It's almost like we might as well start rebuilding now and hope that your Ansu Fatis of the world or your Dembélés can stay healthy and you build from there. But we'll see,
I think that, and this is one of those bad hot takes, right? But I think to an extent, at this point, Messi is part of the problem.
Correct. I agree.
And yeah, I'll give you that. He's very entertaining to watch. Yes, maybe the best player there is now still, maybe, who knows? But with this team, they're not going to start to get better until, unfortunately, they get rid of him, which sounds odd, but I don't think, as you said, I don't think they're going to move on until he's gone.
Yeah.
And is that because they could establish a new identity without him there? Because I feel like a lot of times when you watch Barca play, there's chances, they create chances, but then they, rather than take a shot, they want to go still make an extra pass to Messi.
Mm-hmm.
And that's their main problem, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think it wasn't that long ago that I think it was Ansu Fati who took a shot and Messi kind of yelled at him like, hey, no, you're supposed to pass me the ball. And I remember the commentators mentioning that after that, Ansu Fati didn't take another shot. And it's one of those things that the Messi figure is so intimidating, because how can it not be, right? I mean, this is Messi. If he tells you something, you do it. But now, especially with you got the younger players, and I do give them credit for giving the younger guys more minutes nowadays. But if you still have Messi running things with that same mentality from 8 years ago, which doesn't work nowadays anymore, ask Man City. That's the way they play, and it doesn't work. If you keep that mentality in 2020, 2021, nothing's going to happen, man.
There's a deference that occurs, unfortunately. It's like, again, when Messi came into the league, being a Barcelona product from the academy, the Puyols of the world, the Xavis, the Iniestas, even the Busquets, the Piqués, they were his peers. So they saw him as young Leo. They got to witness his growth, and they got to witness him become the GOAT. But because they all kind of came up together, I think there was a mutual respect even on the playing field, where the Dani Alves of the world were like, yeah, we know you're our best player and we know you're going to be our best way to win, but we also know that you need us just as much as we need you. And as those players have now started to leave the club and you've replaced them with the younger people who have grown up to witness this guy who's a god now. Wasn't always a god. He was a god. He's a god now, though. It's like, how do you teach that player to still have inner confidence like the players that Messi used to play with, to be like, I belong here, but I know I'm supposed to give you the ball all the time. I mean, Neymar, I felt like, was the exception,
for sure.
That learned how to do that.
He did not give a shit. He was
Exactly.
younger, but he had that confidence, right? Like,
Right.
I know you're the best, but hey, man, don't forget about me because
I'm fucking
a close
badass
second.
too. Exactly. Yeah.
Even though he wasn't, but
Right.
he had that thing that sometimes you need. Now, I mean, do you see Fati doing that? Of course not. He's never going to do that, and none of those young kids is going to do that because you can't. It's messy.
Right.
The age gap is too far to do that.
Yeah, because it's Messi now, and then it's Ter Stegen. Those are your two best players on the team. And it can't be, I mean, your goalie can't set up Messi every time. So you need other players to be able to step up and fill that void. Unfortunately, the Griezmanns of the world couldn't. The Coutinhos of the world couldn't. And that's not to say that they're not at that level, because they are, but somehow their confidence took a hit.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned Ter Stegen, because I do think that right now he's half the reason why they're doing as well as they are. If it wasn't for him, they would be at the fucking bottom right now.
Yeah, I would argue sometimes more often, like the last 2 seasons, he's been more of our valuable player than even Messi has.
Which is crazy to think about, because, you have Messi, but this is the guy that keeps you in games every single time. Every single match that you watch for as you said, the past 2 years, he had saves that nobody else would have gotten, I think. Yeah. And this Barcelona team is winning games because of him, because of his saves. And that's not a very good recipe to be a good team.
Right.
Yep.
So, Pablo, you also watch MLS along with La Liga. What is your team that you root for in MLS?
So I've been to a couple Galaxy games. Those are fun to watch.
I'm sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear that.
not a bad seat in the house, because that stadium is so small, which is a good thing.
It's a beautiful stadium.
Yeah. A bit of a drive, but that's okay. But I do find myself, and this is such a selfish thing, but I do find myself rooting for whatever team has a Peruvian on it.
Nice.
I get you. I feel you.
So in the final, I was rooting for my boy Rui Diaz. Unfortunately, he didn't make it happen. But man, he's very good.
Yes,
for
he
the
is.
MLS.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I there isn't a team that I would say, oh my God, I'm gonna buy a jersey and I'm gonna buy a hat. The Galaxy, of course, because especially those games are on all the time here. If you have cable, so you get to watch them. And if you want to go watch them, you can. It's a 45-minute drive. But yeah, when I look up the schedule, I'm like, okay, so Rui Diaz is playing today. Or, like Andy Polo is playing today, or my boy Gallese is playing today. So that's how I find which games to watch.
Pre-pandemic, had you had the opportunity to witness a game at the Bank of California Stadium yet?
No, but I do want to. I've seen I've walked by the stadium, and it's a beautiful stadium, dude.
You're coming with me, and then we'll ask you this question again after you've seen a game there, and then we'll see. Post-pandemic,
but I have to sit down, man. I'm not gonna go to that area where people are just standing.
I don't either. I don't either. Trust me. But it is something that when you're in there and you're witnessing it from your seat, it's pretty cool.
I bet. No, I mean it just sports in general, right? There's something to be said about being there. Yeah. Like, I consider myself very lucky that I got to see Barcelona at Camp Nou a couple of years ago. And just the energy, just walking in, just going to the bars outside right before the game starts. There's something. And I know you hate to hear this, but that even when you go to Galaxy games, there is that sense of, okay, this is going to be good.
Yeah. No, I've been to that stadium, and again, there's not a bad seat in the house. Or in whatever you want to call that place. I don't know if I'd call it a house.
The shed.
A shed. It's not a bad. But yeah, it's
sports fans are the worst again.
I think you'd appreciate. a soccer game at the Bank, especially as somebody who's seen a game at the Camp Nou. I too have been fortunate to see games in Europe and in España, Barcelona. I was able to go to a Clásico.
Ooh.
Yeah. Messi flashing his jersey, scoring the winning goal.
Was that?
Tell us what game that was.
Are you talking about the last minute?
Last minute goal. Yeah, that was a La Liga game. Okay, it was in April, and the only reason I went because this was a honeymoon trip for my wife and I. We got married overseas, and then we took a honeymoon trip to Spain. And part of her gift to me were tickets to the Clásico at the Bernabéu.
Nice.
Yeah, at the Bernabéu.
Keeper.
It was an experience that I will never, ever, ever forget in my life, man. Witnessing a Clásico. The only thing that I regret about that game was that Neymar was suspended because he had accumulated too many yellow cards leading up to that game, so he could not play that game. But outside of that, Ronaldo was healthy, Messi was healthy, Luis Suarez, Modric, everybody was playing.
Are we talking about the same game that Sergio Roberto run and he passes it to Jordi Alba and then he
and Messi's flashing his jersey to the Madrid crowd, and I'm squeezing the life out of my wife's hand until she's almost unconscious because you're surrounded by Madridistas that you cannot express the joy that you want to. I had to contain myself with so much joy from that last second. It doesn't get it's like if you've ever, there is no such thing as a buzzer beater in soccer because there is no, it doesn't work out that way as we know the sport.
But that's as close as it gets, man.
That's the closest thing that could ever come to a buzzer beater. And it happened in a Clásico in which Ronaldo and Messi were still at their best. Man, I'm not getting emotional just talking about it, man. Because so the next morning we went to a little diner and had a little hole in the wall burger, and they had a stack of newspapers. I took 3 of them, dude. Nice. All with the headlines, and I still have those archived in my special storage. To hopefully one day show some kid, my kid, whoever wants to see, hey man, I was there. This happened. So anyways, all that to say that I never had experienced anything quite like that here, but the closest thing that there is to that is an LAFC game.
Okay.
So I invite you to come with me once we get our vaccines here, either Pfizer or Moderna, and I had promised Alex, but you just bumped him. So
okay, good, nice. He doesn't want to go anyway.
Yeah. No, I cannot wait to go see a game at Bank of California Stadium when I support Angel City FC there. I will not be going there to see any kind of LAFC game unless they're playing my LA Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, El Tráfico. Same thing as a Clásico.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yep.
1A, 1B, right? Kind of. No, not at all. Not at all the same. So you guys were mentioning there, watching the games there at Camp Nou. And so what is it like at soccer stadiums in Europe as opposed to the US? Night and day difference, right? Even you say the Bank of California rival, is similar, but still night and day difference, I would imagine.
Yes. I mean, I want to hear Pablo's take first. I don't know what game it was, if you remember, that you attended at the Camp Nou. Or
the game I went to was actually a Copa del Rey final.
Wow!
So I got to witness the trophy presentation.
And everything. That's awesome. That's awesome.
So it's funny because the other day I was going through pictures because it was already 2-3 years ago, and I took some videos and the seats were not bad, man. And I think the only reason why it's so different, and I would say better to an extent, is just because everybody feels the same way. Even the NBA finals, you run into fans who are not into basketball. If your team is in the World Series, you run into people who are not into baseball. But when you're in Europe, I think you're not going to run into many people who don't have a favorite soccer team. Correct. So the fact that the entire city is on the same page as you, I mean, the entire city, they're all talking about the same thing. They're all looking forward to the same thing. You're one of the lucky ones who gets to go in, but everybody outside is watching the same thing that you're watching live. And granted, I'm not sure how big the Camp Nou is, but I think it's like a good
Huge.
60, 80,000 people.
It's 100,000. I think it holds 100,000 people. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that's you don't see that here. Maybe for the Super Bowl or something, or but here there's a Super Bowl every single week. Every game is important, because everyone in the city is a fan of that team, and it's just it just feels different.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'll tell you what makes it different is that the majority of the people attending those games know the game. So there are things that everybody's able to identify, and you when you hear the applause on TV, right? Those are people who know the game. Like this is the game they've been watching their whole life, so they've learned what they can appreciate as a good cross or a good effort or a bad effort, et cetera. A good run. That here a lot of people don't understand yet.
Yeah, they hear the applause and they're like, wait, nobody scored.
Like nobody scored, exactly.
But you're
like
thinking,
nothing...
well, the way he just gave one pass,
exactly,
a super simple one, that's the beauty of it.
Exactly. And that's something that's sorely missing. That's not to say that it can't happen here, but this country is just years behind because they're still very much learning the game. And trying to understand the nuances of it. Europe has an unfair advantage in that sense where it's centuries now, a century of understanding the game abroad. And then not only that, it's also easy to root when you have the best of the best playing it, who are executing these passes at a level that just doesn't exist anywhere else, so that in itself made the game watching experience that much more engaging. You feel the importance of the game more so than you do here. And I don't know if that's an LA thing. I've been to a Seattle Sounders game though, and in Seattle they're pretty engaged. Here, I think it's more of the LA crowd again. Sometimes that gets mixed in, where everybody's distracted, or not everybody, but you got folks that are distracted. That are just there to be there, kind of like at a Dodger baseball game where it's like, yo, shut the fuck up, watch the game. You know what I mean? But that's that's just the kind of city that we live in.
And you mentioned the history of it, and I think that has a lot to do with it too, because I don't think there's a lot of teams in Europe that have newer stadiums.
Right.
So a lot of the big teams have been playing in the same venue forever. Like when I went to, once again, the Camp Nou, I mean, you just think about how old this fucking place is and all the legends who have actually played on this exact same pitch.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that stadium is old and looks like it and feels like it. It needs a makeover. But at the same time, it's the history that comes with it. And here, you just don't have that.
Yeah, I went to Fenway Park and felt that as a baseball fan, where I was like, man, all the racism is even still here.
The N-word's written on that wall.
Yeah.
But that was written, though, last week, though. It's Boston, after all.
But there is a certain aura that just by stepping in that you're just like, wow, Babe Ruth did actually play here. You know what I mean? This is crazy.
It's the way I feel about Dodger Stadium when I go in there, man. Fernando Mania was on that mound.
Fernando Mania. Yeah, but that's why Dodger Stadium is one of the more classic stadiums because of the history. It's definitely not because of the fans. It's not the energy. You know what I mean?
Hey, there's plenty of energy at Dodger Stadium, dude. There's plenty of energy.
Listen, LA fans are front runners mostly.
Dude, Dodger Stadium is always sold out even when they suck. So don't say the Dodger fans are front runners when it comes to that.
LA fans are front runners mostly. Meaning, again, it's still cheap to get to Dodger to go into Dodger Stadium unless you're trying to sit field level or anything like that. But it's something to do. It's something to take your
The
kids to.
Coliseum has that vibe too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I went to that USC Texas game, like you go into the not sports arena, the Coliseum, and you could. I mean, it definitely needs a makeover for sure. The seats are really uncomfortable, but like you go in it and you can tell, like, damn, that this is really did the Olympics a long time ago, and this is where like. This is where this team plays. And yeah, it definitely needs a makeover, but it definitely has that history behind it. And it's kind of funny because it's in South LA. So it's just like the weirdest like thing. But then again, that's the most LA thing too about it. You know what I mean? That it would be placed here. But I think at the same time, just to like kind of piggyback on what Sunny's saying, I know that's what like Alex, when he approached me about starting this podcast, I know that was a big part of it, was that like we wanted to kind of streamline and kind of embrace the little sports culture that there is here in LA, because it is here. But the thing is that like Sunny says, it's a majority of it is exactly how you explained it, where it's very fair weather-ish. And I know that's why we did this show, and that's why we decided to like kind of get it going, just to see if we could streamline that whole LA sports culture and kind of embrace it, because it's not embraced enough and it's so small. It's kind of like what the MLS is to America, which is like, oh yeah, it exists. It's like the pro soccer league of the United States, but it's not the it's not the one that gets embraced a lot. But yet there is like a small group of people who love the MLS, So yeah, man, I definitely feel you on that.
Yeah, there's this misnomer out there in the country that LA fans are all fair weather fans. Mm-hmm. When that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are folks that exist like us who actually pay attention or have paid attention to the history of the city and what it's meant to sports in general. But we are not the majority, unless the majority of LA fans are fair weather front running fans. Like that's just been what it is. I hate that they get that rep, that they give us that rep. And so hopefully we can change that with podcasts like this, because that's what we're passionate about. But I mean, the Rose Bowl was one of those stadiums also.
Insulting your listeners, is that the strategy that you guys are going for?
We're hoping we're like, influencing them. So that's the goal, is to influence them, just like social media influencers influence whatever they're trying to influence. So I mean, that's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah.
But speaking on like soccer and just like how not big it is in the U.S., I feel like lately the U.S. soccer team has been pretty exciting to watch, especially with all these European guys, like the guys that are playing out overseas. And I wanted to ask you, Pablo, based on what you're seeing so far, Peru or USA, like who has the better team?
Right now, I would say Peru has the better team right now. No, it's true. That being said, I think Team USA is about to get very good. It's going to happen, I want to say, within the next 5 years. I think the fact that they missed going to the World Cup the last time around was a bit of a wake-up call. And I think with all these young guys who are getting this amazing experience, playing with the best of the best, that has a lot of weight, and I think that's going to you're going to see it. You're going to see it very soon. So I unfortunately for my peeps, they don't get that opportunity. Not a lot of Peruvians make it to Europe. And that's why it's so hard to, even if you do make it to the World Cup, it's very hard to compete against them, because they, European teams, you just don't have what it takes to go up against them. I think if Team USA gets good, I think they're the only American team that, and I'm talking about continent, I think they're the only American team that has what it takes, that could have what it takes to take on a European team.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely. I don't know if you guys got to see the, not this last friendly game, but the other two where they actually played the European guys, the ones that were playing out in Europe.
Oh, yeah.
I thought it was really impressive, and I thought it was really interesting to see that the two best players were Sergiño Dest and
McKinney.
Weston McKinney, which is funny because one of them plays with Messi and the other one plays for Ronaldo. And I would say Tyler Adams is like number 3 there, but that's just because Tyler Adams really fun guy and Leipzig's really good. But like, it's crazy to see that, like, you know, this is what I think a lot of people are hoping for the USA, that because they get to play with these great players, that it also transfers to them, like their greatness somehow like just trickles down. Because I think at the end of the day, like, they want to see the team succeed. I mean, if the USA make it out of the knockout stage in a World Cup, that's a huge, like, you know what I mean? That's a huge step forward for the club because they never get past that. So, I mean, I just want to know your thoughts on what you've seen so far with Team USA and Peru. Any of you guys that want to jump in?
I mean, I've paid attention to Pablo's Peruvian squad, and that's a team to me that's frisky and has been for the last 6 years now. It's tough though in CONMEBOL. That's a very, very tough overall squad. I mean, the World Cup qualifiers of this year, is it this upcoming World Cup that's going to be 32 teams?
No, I think that's for the next one.
This is the last. I'm sorry. This is the last one of 32.
Yeah.
And then the next one will be where they make it 48.
Something like that. There's an expansion coming.
Yeah. I do think the USA is absolutely on the up and up. Basically, it's a travesty what happened to them the last World. The fact that they didn't make the World Cup was embarrassing. Because I definitely think they had the talent to at least get to the dance. But for one reason or the other, I think it was arrogance, American arrogance that was their downfall in not making it to the World Cup this last time around. But I'm curious to see, man. Like we've talked about it a little bit. I don't know if we have talked about it officially on this podcast before, but I guess this is a good opportunity to bring it up. But we've talked about the struggles some of us have, all of us being from either born here, in Pablo's case, not born here, but moving out, living here, where we all have affinities to also other countries' national teams. In Alex, in my case, I think we have a strong affinity for El Tri.
Right.
You know, Donald, we've kind of spoken about how you have an affinity or ties, obviously, to Honduras and El Salvador, but more so and understandably Honduras because of their they've had more success in the international stage. But yeah, we're all American, man. So I mean, or living here at least, you know. So it's interesting. Let me ask you, Pablo, when USA does play Peru when they play Peru in a exhibition or friendly, or let's just say it were to be in the World Cup. I mean, I know the answer, I think, but you're clearly rooting against USA, right?
If it's a match that matters, probably, man. I mean, just because we've gone through so much as a people.
Yeah.
You know, give us something.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I root for USA all the time. But yeah, it's just, as you said, once if you grew up rooting for a different team, it's very hard to get out of that. And I think they have actually played each other a couple times, but they were like friendly games. You know, it doesn't really matter who wins. But once again, if it matters, let's say it's I don't know, round of 16.
Or it could be group stage where they're both drawn in the same group, right? Like
no, but that's the thing. Like if, for example, Peru they've already made it to the next round, then I wouldn't mind, you know. but if it's winner, you know, makes it to the next round, man, I don't know. It's a tough one, but I think I would probably still go with Peru. Yeah,
understandable.
Well, let's put the highest stakes on the line ever, right? World Cup final, Peru versus United States. Like, what does that matter? Like, who does that matter more to? Like, think about it selfishly. Like, if the United States wins their first ever World Cup, or if Peru wins their first ever World Cup, like, who does that matter more to? Like, selfishly, you think of the United States, soccer is going to get bigger now because the United States finally won a World Cup, and you hope the MLS will get big from that. But you know it won't, though, right? Like, that's why you wouldn't root for them.
Yeah, because once again, like in Peru, it's kind of like in Europe, right? That you grew up watching soccer and that's all you do. I think it would mean so much more to to Peru to win it, because here, let's say, Team USA wins it, people are going to forget about it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And that was that.
That's true.
Because the United States fans won't realize, like, okay, next year, when's the next World Cup? It's next year, right? No, it's 4 years. And that's why it's more valuable. And that's why it's the biggest thing, in the world.
And people are going to start asking, like, oh, okay, what do you get? And people are going to be like, whoa, well, a star on your jersey. They're going to be like, what? We went through all that just for that? You know what I mean? I don't think people appreciate it.
Donald, but you're on the other side of this, right? As if it were to be Honduras versus USA in the final, who are you rooting for and why?
Well, what's funny is that, like, I personally would be rooting for the USA because I feel like obviously I'm here. But I know that, like, my brother, my mom, my cousin, pretty much everyone who was born there, they're definitely going to have their blue H jerseys on, which is kind of funny because I don't think they really know that I do that I don't really care for that team when they're playing the US. But at the same time, like, it's like funny because it's just like, oh, well, like, I don't think it's just like it's like a non-discussion, but it is exciting for me to see when the USA play Honduras, because I always feel like, I want to see the USA win. I feel like if I had to, put my ties down, obviously I was born in LA and all that. So, but then when Honduras is playing the other team, not named the USA, then definitely I'm rooting for them, So that's where I stand.
Alex, what about you, man?
That's weird, man. I remember 2002 World Cup, Mexico versus USA. And I remember actually in that game rooting for the United States. I actually do, because my dad was so heavily rooting for Mexico that I always had to bet against him. If that round of 16 match were to happen in this 2022 World Cup, I'd definitely root for Mexico, because I understand now what it means more to Mexico than it means for the United States. Like, what,
and also because you're Alex, and if it wouldn't be on brand if you didn't switch sides.
There it is. That's right. I have to hedge my bets. I've rooted already for the United States, and I got to root for now the new winning team, which is going to be Mexico in that round of 16. Actually, maybe not. Not if they met in 2022.
Yeah.
How about you, Sonny?
For me, man. See, I was introduced to the sport. That was the first sport I ever was introduced to, and it was through the eyes of my father, who obviously being born from Mexico and being a former player himself, not professional, but in Mexico, he played as long as he could, and even here when he moved. El Tri was and Liga MX teams were ingrained in my blood since practically since birth. So weirdly, I've always had that loyalty and that affinity towards that country and that what that country represented. So to this day, I ride with El Tri till I die. However, I've never understood, and again, there's kind of some overlap here where we talked about it in the basketball episode. I've never understood how Laker fans hated Clipper fans. Me personally, I've never understood the fans that live here that root for El Tri like me, how they hate USA. I get why the fans that are from Mexico and who live in Mexico have a disdain for America and the team or whatever it may be. But it's never made sense to me why the ones that are here hate so hard. Like,
well,
can't
because
you embrace...
Landon Donovan insulted Estadio Azteca.
Yeah. Which is funny because it's a stadium that I guarantee you 85% of the fans that root for Mexico that are here have never fucking stepped foot in. You know what I'm saying? And yet they took offense to that shit. Like that, we've talked about the beautiful ironies of sports fans and just people in general, and that's one of them. We talked a few episodes ago about UCLA and USC ties. It's like makes no sense. With that said, though, absolutely, my heart like I've tried to remain neutral when USA and Mexico play, even in friendlies, and my heart just can't contain itself that I end up rooting for Mexico to do well.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, just naturally. You know, whenever they're not playing against each other though, and USA is playing against anybody, I'm Team USA, baby. I got my popsicle jersey. You know that I'm all in. You know, It's only when they play against each other. You know, so when you brought up that 2002, it's a soft spot, man, in my heart. But yeah, the World Cup would mean so much more to a country like Mexico, just because of what soccer has meant to a country like Mexico versus like Pablo was saying, what it's meant to, you know, it's to Peru. It's the same thing for Mexico. Like that's the number one sport there. It has been. And it would mean so much more, especially to a country that can't get out of the freaking, you know, what is it? The round of 16.
16.
Right.
Yeah.
And are cursed. It's just like, yeah, man, it would mean a lot more, you know? So I think if Mexico were to get a World Cup title, it'd be easier for me to then move forward and move on and be like, okay, now I want the USA to get one.
Yeah.
But until that happens, I can't see it the other way.
That's it. So the Gold Cup titles are already just like you're like numb to them winning it.
Yeah, those are like small little victories, like little like reminders, you know, like, yo, stay in your lane, like stop getting brazy, USA, like know who you are, know that you're the second greatest team in North America. Sometimes, you know, and let's call it that. You don't have to, it's American exceptionalism that sometimes drives me crazy, where they feel like they should be the best at everything. And I say they, like I'm not living here, right? But it does drive me crazy sometimes. We're like, chill, y'all are still learning the sport. You don't expect to be the best right away, you know, like you're making gains. I like the moves you're making. You're treating it with respect now, finally, it seems like. But that doesn't mean like you should be beating these other countries, you know. So.
I will say one more thing too, and I think to an extent you guys are spoiled to how easy it can be to get to the World Cup, because once again, especially in South America, it's so hard to be the top 5, you know, or even get the 6th spot that nowadays has that other playoff game. It's so hard to do it here. I mean, especially for USA, they have the resources, they have the talent to be there every single year, and not just be there, but actually, you know, put on a good performance.
Right.
And especially with this last time around, to not even make it, man, it's embarrassing.
Although I will say Mexico has participated in plenty Copa Americas and they've done extremely well. So I do believe Mexico could compete in CONMEBOL if for whatever reason, you know, that was ever a thing. But yes, absolutely. It's not even close how easy it is for Mexico to get to the World Cup by playing in the CONCACAF versus, you know, Peru's chances playing against the giants, the superpowers that are Brazil and Argentina. And that's, I mean, Chile has had a great run also, but yeah. I have one last question though for you though, as a diehard Barcelona fan, or as close to a diehard as one could be that doesn't live there. Would you say Messi? Okay, Messi's your favorite player?
Right now, I think so. I mean, once again, I think he's probably 70% of the reason why I get up early to watch them.
So with Messi being that person, and I don't know if you've experienced this, but I do, like, Messi has won me over, obviously, like my soccer heart, to the point where I do root for that guy to succeed, right? But that I've found that even extends to when he plays for Argentina.
Me too.
Which is weird because Argentina has broken my heart as a Mexican soccer fan enough times that I should probably not care for that country like that. But, and I was curious, you just answered it. You said me too, but.
Yeah, no, especially with this, right now, he's running out of time too, right?
Yeah.
And I do hate that argument that people who somehow think they know what they're talking about, they always bring up that thing. Oh, he never won a World Cup. Yeah, but I mean, it's first of all, it's very hard to do that if you're the only good player. I mean, he is carrying that Argentinian team, so it's very hard to do. I mean, there's only so much one person can do. But yeah, I definitely do find myself rooting for them whenever they're not playing my team.
Right.
But they always make it to the World Cup, and the last one I was kind of sad when they got bounced from the World Cup, and it was a great game too. I don't know if you guys remember.
Yeah.
I think they lost to France, right?
Yeah. France was amazing in this last World Cup.
But I don't know if you guys remember, but toward the end, France started taking out their starters because they thought it was a done deal, and Argentina almost came back.
Yeah.
And that would have changed everything.
Right.
But yeah, no, I definitely do want Messi to win it. Is it going to happen? Probably not, but I definitely do want him to.
That argument that Messi's not the greatest because he hasn't won a World Cup is so infuriating, because he was one Higuain tap-in away from beating Germany and winning the World Cup. And it's like, the guy can't do everything, by himself. He needs his teammates still. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Argentina does have a chance of winning the World Cup because they'll have Christian Pavón on that Argentine team, that Galaxy legend. So let's not count out Messi's Argentinian national team just yet. Just yet.
You're right. I stand corrected.
Before we go, Pablo Cabrera, international music superstar of the classic album 2018, Simple. When can we expect the follow-up album?
At this point, because of the pandemic, I'm thinking sometime in the first half of next year. But I think I'm kind of done writing. That being said, I've been having some ideas, so I might go back to, do a little more. That's the thing with these projects, right? Like, it's very hard to stop yourself from saying, okay, I'm done writing. I'm not going to write anymore. Especially since I have so much time now. I don't do much outside of work, that I do find myself wanting to sit down and keep writing. But yeah, no, I'm thinking first half of next year for sure.
Nice.
Man, that's exciting. So when you release that album, please come back, West Box Score, come back on, plug that album, and talk about what the Clippers are up to at that point. Because at that point, they would be out of the playoffs.
This guy.
I mean, he's not wrong. So, but yes, I will come back.
Nice.
Thanks a lot, Pablo. We really appreciate you taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you guys for having me.
So be sure to check out Simple on Spotify from Pablo Cabrera. Also check out the Fox Crate podcast from Sunny and Amano, and also follow him on Instagram at the Fox Crate. Be sure to refresh your West Box Score feed, because Donald the Bot is going to be hosting the Lucha Royale specials on our West Box Score feed. That's the one we did with Sunny, myself, Donald the Bot right there, and Rick. Be sure to check those out. There's going to be 2 dropping every week. They're worth the listen if you're a big wrestling fan. And also Blue Wire Hustle. Check them out at Blue Wire Pods on Twitter. Follow myself and Donald at West Box Score on Twitter and Instagram. That's it for us this week. See ya.
Peace.
Later.